Okay, that's picking up. Let's see if this starts now. Come on, you can do it. Please make my life easy. Come on. Oh, I think we've got it. Okay, oh my gosh, this night is just not working out as planned at all. I apologize. Okay, so the plan tonight, I was going to start an acrylic painting, a portrait that my laptop, last I checked, was it? Yeah, it's still at 27%. It's been there for over 10 minutes. I have never had an update take this long. I thought an hour. Oh, that's more than enough time. It usually takes like, what, 20 minutes max? 30 minutes? I don't know. I freaking hate Windows 10. Anyway, yeah, it's super quiet. Let me see real quick. Oh, yeah, that is way down low. Let's see if that, let me know if that's any better. Actually, let me check it. Yes, I have to climb behind my mic to find out where the button is, because,
Let me know if that's any better.
oh yeah, that's loud enough. Okay. Wow. One of those nights. I probably should have just had wine with tonight's thing instead of tea. So, because my laptop is still updating, which, I mean, I always feel like I'm being a bit risky updating it before. I only use that laptop for live streaming. So I only turn it on once a week, which means it pretty much gets updated once a week. But I've never had this happen, like, ever. So, yeah, lesson learned. I apologize. This is, and then I was thinking, well, I could sketch on my Wacom tablet. I did find the pen, but now it's too late to set that up. My desk right now is a freaking nightmare because we're as you guys are, I'm sure, sick of me hearing about planning the move. But now we're like 2 weeks before the move. So, I mean, it is, hoarders would be jealous of me right now. Let me get rid of some of that. Okay. So, what we're going to do today instead, hopefully, is to, I don't know if I can get my Wacom tablet. I think, no, I would have to change my mics around. It's too much to even get that going. So, that's disappointing now that I know where the pin is. I can't wait for this move to be over and everything to be where it's supposed to be. Anyway, so the plan tonight is, if you've got art questions, we'll chat and we'll just go for as long as you guys have questions. If it gets super dead and nobody has any questions anymore, then we'll just call it early. So it's completely up to you guys how long we go tonight. Well, no more than 2 hours, because I actually do have to go paint after this. I might be bitter. By mine, I mean, I'm bitter. Let's see. I don't know if anyone had any questions yet. Make sure when you do ask your questions, do the Lachri fine art so it highlights in orange. If it doesn't highlight in orange, I'm not ignoring you. I just don't see it. So, I know Heather said that she had a question all day. Let's see what that is. Or maybe she's talking about things not going right. I'm not sure. Let's see. Any questions? No questions yet. Let's see, do I have any stories I can tell you while I wait for questions? And yeah, I have a different background in every live stream because I'm at my desk right now. And now everything, there are cords and cables and just random crap all behind me. Normally the studio is actually really clean. I don't like things to be messy, but like this whole move has been a bit of a challenge for me because I'm fairly neurotic, wanting everything organized. Like, I'm cluttered. I have a lot of crap, but it's organized crap. What is happening in here now, I'm not handling it well. I can't wait to be over. Heather said, how do you keep your carpal tunnel from being aggravated? Well, I don't have carpal tunnel. I have arthritis, so very, very different things. I can't really give you too much advice about carpal tunnel because it's not something I've experienced. That and the whole not being a doctor thing. But for arthritis, the type of arthritis I have, it's ankylosing spondylitis, and it causes your joints to fuse together. Like, it builds up, I don't know what it's called. It builds up something, but it causes everything to fuse together. So if I hold still very long, it's funny because they thought I had carpal tunnel when I was like 17, 18, 19. I started having problems with my wrist, and they're thinking arthritis couldn't obviously be the problem at someone that age. So they thought because I played violin that I was overusing it. And I'm thinking, and I kept telling them, I'm like, you don't understand, I don't practice, like, ever. I'm the worst violinist ever. I do not practice. Carpal tunnel, not even possible. I'm extremely inactive all across the board. So they kept giving me wrist braces, and it would kind of feel better, but it was more the pressure that felt good at the time. didn't realize until it finally completely locked up one year, like it got bad. I just kept wearing the stupid brace and it would get to where I could hardly, I mean, just the pain was horrible. And I couldn't move it more than like just barely. I lost all mobility to it. And a doctor finally then realized, oh yeah, that's arthritis. But for me, the type I have works best. The more active I am, the more I move, the better my wrist is. So colored pencil is great as long as I don't apply pressure. If I push very hard with something, that's why I had to stop with the burnishing technique. Plus it took forever, but pushing hard was really causing a lot of pain. So when I started doing light layers and with OMS, I was able to work with colored pencils, but like the light constant motion there, that I have no problems with. And I know that's very different than carpal tunnel. So for you guys, I'm not sure. I would think with carpal tunnel, colored pencils might be a bit of a challenge if you do the light layers, but even then you've got too much of a repetitive motion. You may be better off with like acrylic painting or something that's going to be a little bit light, like less harsh on your hands, so it's not so much of the repetitive motion. But again, I'm not sure because it's not something that it's such a different thing than the arthritis. Let's see, we've got Carl Addy said, Carl Addy said, I was hoping to know more about blending with acrylics. I was hoping to teach you more about blending with acrylics tonight. Stupid computer. Actually, it's not the computer's fault. It's Windows 10. But anyway, I really am not a fan. It's a constant argument with my husband and I because he thinks Windows 10 is amazing and I think he must be doing like drugs on the side that I'm not aware of. I don't know. But yeah, blending with acrylics. The thing with acrylics, there's two things you want to learn. One, wet into wet blending. I've got videos on that. Lots of people have videos on that, but wet into wet blending is that is your friend when it comes to acrylics. And what that means is you're blending while it's still wet. So this layer of paint is wet and you want to blend another color into it, and you're going to do that all while wet, which means you work fast. You have to work really fast, use a mop brush, and it's one of those things that it's kind of hard to explain, unfortunately, without showing you, which Windows 10. That's going to be my answer for everything tonight. Freaking Windows 10. But you want to look into that term though. If you look at videos, look wet into wet blending with acrylics, and you're going to do a lot of layering. It's not a paint by number. And I think that is a big thing for people to learn when you're talking about whether it be acrylics or oil painting or anything like that. It's not just put the right color in the right place. There is a layering process to it. So, and I think with watching the time-lapse videos, that's one of the things that you can really get from that. I know it's hard because they're faster, but it's nice because you can see the way things are layered in order to get the blending to look right, because the layering really has a lot to do with the blending as well. But yeah, without showing you much, unfortunately, I'm useless with that for you tonight. I'm sorry. Windows 10. Baby's Panda said, I watched your pumpkin video using powder blender. You always use glassine to protect your art from the oils in your hand, but you were using your finger to blend. Is this okay, and why? My hands were clean, and yes, no, you have, that is a valid question. My hands are clean, and anytime you're using your hands to blend, that is, of course, a risk, but make sure your hands are clean and dry. That is very, very important. And my hands aren't resting so much. So if you rest your hand on, let's say, tracing paper, I notice it with tracing paper especially, you can really see where the oils from your skin, you won't think your hands are oily, but it'll leave a mark on that. If you just touch the tracing paper quickly, it's not really soaking in as much. It seems to be more of an issue when you're resting long term. But yeah, I mean, ideally, you want to keep your hands off of your work as much as possible, but there's certain blending techniques that to make it look the way you want, you've got to use your fingers. So, you know, it's kind of a give and take there. I try not to touch it as much as possible. And then, like I said, when I'm blending, I don't see that as causing as much issue as like resting your hand and so, well, which would also smudge the work where you didn't want it. But a lot of like pastels too, same thing. A lot of pastel artists will use their fingers. Now, an alternative would potentially be to wear gloves. I don't like to wear gloves. They freak me out. I don't like things on my hands like that. So I'm not going to, but some artists I know, I've seen where pastel artists, some will use gloves when they're blending. Now working on sanded paper like I was, I'm not sure how that would, I've never tried it. So I don't know how that would affect things because I'd imagine you'd kind of burn a hole through the gloves depending on the type you're using. So I have no answers for you. Okay, I am not helpful tonight. 2 questions in a row. I'm very little help on. Elaine said, do you feel the pet portrait market is oversaturated? The thing with art, I would say any market could be considered oversaturated or undersaturated depending on how you want to look at it. I think I mean, it's the same thing with everything in life, depending on how you view things. You don't need to have every single person in the world who wants a pet portrait come to you. You only need a handful of those people. So I don't think that there's any reason anybody couldn't be a pet portrait artist. The thing is, you've got to find a way to separate yourself from the other artist. What is going to make somebody want to hire you to paint or draw their pet versus the next artist? What separates you? And it may be your sales pitch. It may be your website. It may be the quality of your work. Maybe you do surreal stuff mixed in, like the portrait that I'm starting after the live stream is over. It's a portrait of a guy who has a really long beard who works at a fish store, and I'm going to turn his beard into coral. It's a surprise. He has no idea. Actually, the guy I'm doing it for is the one I just posted on Instagram and my personal Facebook page. But I don't think it's on my business page, that's the word, yet. But that his beard, I'm going to turn into that. So there are things that you can do that may make you more unique or do something that another artist does not. I don't think, I mean, yeah, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of artists who are doing pet portrait artists. But there are even more people who want pet portraits. How do you find the right person for your work? How do you separate yourself from them? Step one, make sure you've got a website. And this is it's kind of like one of my pet peeves or whatever that I go off on all the time. You have so many people who are like, oh, I have Facebook. That's not your website. Facebook is not your website. YouTube is not your website. Twitter, whatever other platforms you're using are not your website. Those are social media. You need an actual website. A big way that you can separate yourself from a lot of the other artists is make sure that that client knows you're very serious, and your website for a portrait should have your price list. Absolutely have your price list. That's very important. Have a lot of samples of your work. You want it to be very clear what quality they can expect from you. Have instructions on how to take a reference photo. If you aren't the person taking it for them, then instructions on what you're looking for. I'm trying to think some other things that you would want to make yourself more appealing to the buyer. You want to have your contract, like what deposits, let them know what to expect. Get all of that in there. Be careful with your deposits. You don't want to make like if you have your, the fact that you need a 50% deposit, I might not put that on the first thing they're going to see part, because you don't want to freak them out. I would probably give them that information once you started talking to them so they became more comfortable with you, but make sure before you start, they do know you're taking that deposit. It's non-refundable. All of that stuff. But how do you separate yourself from the next artist? No matter what field it is, it could be portraits, it could be surreal work, it could be anything. How do you separate yourself from everybody else? There are always going to be, actually somebody, where was it? I saw a really good question. I think they submitted it. Actually, let's pull that up, because it was set, and it kind of ties into your question. It was a really good one. I was tempted to make it into its own video, but if we're chatting tonight, we may as well turn that into, let me find it. Where is that? Hold on one second. Maybe this wasn't the one. Okay, I don't know where it was that I got this message. I'll have to look at it. Maybe it was a comment on another video, but it was really good because they were talking about being concerned about anything that they paint. They'll come up with an idea all in their own head, like they're not even using reference photos, which I don't recommend. Use reference photos if you want your work to be any good, but you don't have to copy it exactly. They're just a guideline, but you need something to look at. But they were concerned because they'd come up with this really unique idea, and then months later or whatever, they'd see somebody else had already done the same thing. And they were concerned about someone thinking that they were copying them, or that it just wasn't original. And how do you come up with something original? Then they were hesitant to post it online because they didn't want someone else copying them. And your typical thing concerned with, it's something that a lot of artists, I think, at some point or another are concerned with. The thing is, no matter what it is you do, including pet portrait artists or people portraits or babies or landscapes or marine work, there are going to be thousands of other people doing the same thing. How do you make yours different? Now, in this case, this person was a little bit different because it has at the same time, it's all been done before. So maybe the thing that you make yourself different, if your work is similar and you like doing something similar to somebody else, is your sales pitch may be the thing that's different. How you present yourself, how you present your artwork. Like, one of the things that I'm really excited about, and I've been very just being, what is the word I'm looking for, conscious of as I'm choosing furniture and how I'm doing things in the new house, is how can I stage photographs of the artwork of paintings, because I want to do an experiment on eBay and see how that's doing, if it's changed from before, and make some videos out of that. But I'm thinking, how can I stage those photos and make the photo of the painting look better than the next person's photo? So it may be someone else, maybe they painted the same flower as me and it looks almost the same. How can I present my work to be more appealing to the buyer than the next person over, even if we're doing the same subject? The way that you stage the photos may be all it is you need to do. Start paying attention to some of the artists on Instagram. I'm trying to think. There's one. Is it Headspace Illustrations? Let me find it really quick so you guys can look her up. She's really good at staging photos, if it's who I think I am. Hold on. Yes, look up headspace.illustrations on Instagram. And her work, it's not that her work is like so unique, so different. It's not crazy different than anyone else's. It's amazing. She's an amazing artist. But, you know, a lot of people paint very similar things to her. How does she make her stand out? She stages her work, whether it be with plants or how she holds it up. She stages it in a very beautiful way. And I think it really separates her from somebody else who may be doing the same thing. And then going back to the pet portrait thing, same concept. How can you separate? No matter what it is, tons of people will do it. Figure out how to separate yourself and make yours more appealing to the buyer than the next person doing the same thing. Okay, I rambled about that forever. I like that. That was a good question. One I was actually able to answer. Let's see. Majestic said, will you be reviewing the Stabilo pencil pastel soon? No, I will not do pastels. I don't like pastels. Wait, let me rephrase that. Love how they look. I think they are a beautiful medium. I also am insanely neurotic, and the feel of pastel on my hand, it's like skin crawling level of freaks me out. I can't do it. I can do pan pastels because they don't have that feel to them, but I can't do regular pastel pencils. I'm clearly not well balanced in this area, but no, so I won't review those just because I can't stand the feel of them. So yeah, it kind of sucks because I really love the look of pastel work. Let's see. Kelly said, I'm so cold just looking at you. It was 11 degrees. Oh my gosh. In Utah, felt like 5. And the teens right now. Looking forward to flying to Dallas in a few weeks. Yeah, and we'll be warmer again soon. We're under a freeze warning tonight. I was outside and came inside, and now I think I'm hot, so I took off my sweat. Anyway, I was freezing earlier, but I did have to bring my plants in, but it's not nearly as bad as you guys. We're at what? 38 degrees right now, so it's not terrible. But yeah, I don't like the cold at all. I feel for you guys who are in like super cold weather. And hopefully in a couple of weeks it'll be back in. We've got 60s coming up soon, so we should hopefully by then start improving. Let's see. Carl Lady said, I want to know more about blending with... Okay, I answered that one. Sally said, I like this setup. Looks like you're in a corner like me. Yeah, my little office desk, it's built into the wall, and then one side of me has the Wacom tablet and then shelves and stuff behind me. It's actually really comfortable to work on. It's going to be weird in the new to have like an office. I hope I like it as much, having a bigger space, because I'm very comfortable in my little cramped desk area. Let's see. Michael said, how did you do with the weather this past week? I'm an idiot, and I packed all my jackets because I'm like, oh, October, November, we're supposed to be moving in 2 weeks. Like, it won't be cold enough to need my heavier jackets. Yeah, I'm an idiot. It normally isn't this cold yet, so I have to unpack. Luckily, my way of packing clothes is just to group a section of hangers together and put a big black trash bag over it, with a hole cut at the bottom of it, so the hangers go through the bottom and then tie at the bottom. So I just have to untie and pull out the jackets. But yeah, I don't have proper clothing available to me right now. So yeah, I'm an idiot. Maybe not an idiot. I'm not prepared. We'll go with that. I wasn't expecting this. Rachel said, whoops, that just scrolled too fast. Back up to Rachel. Where'd you go, Rachel? There we go. Rachel said, what is the best colored pencil blender out there other than OMS? There are only 2 ways that I personally like to blend. Now, maybe different from for other people. So it's not, I can't say the best. I can tell you what my favorite is though. So obviously OMS is that was my one favorite. The other is Powder Blender. That is from Brush and Pencil. The pumpkins that I recently did, those were with Powder Blender. So completely different way to blend, but those are the two methods that I really like. Elaine said, it seems like many pet portrait artists are in the UK. I've noticed that some like, and it's funny, I actually asked my friend Alan Woollett one time years ago. I said something about like something about the UK has so many amazing artists. Like some of my favorite artists are from there. And he said it's because it's too cold. They can't go outside and play. Like I don't remember how he worded it, but something about like they couldn't go outside and play, so they stayed inside and drew all day. So that's why they all got really good at their artwork. Like that makes sense. But yeah, I've noticed that a lot of my favorite artists are from the UK. Let's see. Heather said, I never thought that ankylosing spondylitis would be the culprit. Or AS, I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, for me, that was a surprise. And it's funny because my mom, going back to the arthritis, that's my mom and my grandmother both have it, but they were never diagnosed with the appropriate name, I guess. They were just, you know, oh, it's just arthritis. It's degenerative arthritis. And I'm like, yeah, that started when we were 19 and 20. Like, that's not just like, there's something very specific. So it was helpful once I could get the actual name, because the treatment of it is a little bit different. Like the fact that it's best for me to be very active. The more active I am, the better it is. So yeah, kind of crazy. Carl Lady said, tell us more. Okay, Carl, I already answered the question about blending acrylics, so I don't really have anything additional to tell you about blending it than the question that I already answered. It was like the first question. I answered yours. If you have a more specific question about acrylics, I would be more than happy to approach that. But as far as like blending it, because I can't show you, I already talked about that, and I can't like show you any techniques because my computer is updating. Is it still? Yep, still stuck updating. Okay. Octavia said I agree. Elaine says, I just saw a YouTube video where it said you did a pet portrait giveaway. How often did you do that? I was doing, gosh, I don't remember. For a while there, I would try to do like one giveaway. It wasn't necessarily a pet portrait, but to build Facebook, back when Facebook would show you pages you followed, I would do like one a month. And I would do like a double. So the same version, I would put one on eBay and sell it like cheap. They were quick stuff, sell it for like 20, 30, 40 bucks. And then I would do one as a giveaway to promote Facebook. I stopped doing that because it doesn't matter if I promote Facebook, unless I pay them, they're not going to share it with the people. Like growing it doesn't really help because of the way Facebook are, well, I don't like how they run their business. So I don't do it anymore, but I was doing it about I think it was once a month. Like I was doing like the second Tuesday of the month. There was some schedule I used to be on where I would do that sort of thing. And then I started doing like the detailed pet portrait things, giveaways. I need to do giveaways again, but I think I need to run it off my website, not bother with the Facebook thing. I think it would be easier. I'll have to look into that because I have not done a giveaway in a really long time. Maybe on MeWe would be a better way to do it. Yeah. I'll look into this. Let's see. Veek said, can I store, and going back, Elaine, doing the giveaways on Facebook did get me business. It didn't get a ton, but it got enough people who had seen them and then decided to hire me to have one of their pets done. So, and the people who won would usually promote and share the work. So it really did, at the time, I don't know if it would still work well on Facebook, but at the time it really did bring me in some business. So it was a good way to get some traction there on getting more customers. Let's see. Veek said, can I store used OMS in a container with clasps until my next OMS session in plastic or glass? Well, it depends on what kind of container it is. The one I use, it's called Lock and Lock. I get them on Amazon. It's just this little teeny tiny plastic one. That one has been perfectly fine. That's been my favorite that I've used. I also had these little jars I got at Michael's, and actually I'm just going to pour the OMS back into my container because I actually kind of hate the jars. The rubbery seal kind of expanded and it doesn't want to close, and I make a mess every time I open them, so I'm not a huge fan of those. But if you've got, so it depends on the plastic, because some things I don't know if it would eat through or not. Like the Lock and Lock, which is kind of like a Tupperware type thing, it's a thicker plastic, that one has been fine, but you do want to make sure you have a lid on it for sure. Glass, Mine's plastic. Glass makes more sense if you've got the rubbery seal, but mine, I didn't like the rubbery seal on the cheap. They were cheap little 99-cent or $2 type things. That did not work out too well for me. And over the years, they just didn't hold up as well as the little plastic one with the rubbery seal. Let's see. Uncle 60 said, drink more double caffeine coffee. It's good for the pain. What? I actually can't have much caffeine. Everyone thinks I drink it, and I joke about it, but I can't have very much caffeine because it makes me real sick. I have issues, my thyroid being hyperactive, and my adrenaline gets overloaded. Like I can't handle very much caffeine at all. So it's kind of funny because I joke about drinking it all the time, and people assume I do because of how fast I talk, but I actually can't have very much, unfortunately, which makes me sad. I would drink it all day long if I could. I love coffee. I have decaf a lot. Just because I like the taste. Let's see. Suzanne said, for creating watercolor, are tubes the same as using pans, and what brushes are best to start with? So I'm not going to be a good one to ask here. You may want to ask, I know Lena Daniel works with watercolor. I'm trying to think of who else on YouTube does. She's mostly oil painting, but I know she does watercolor as well. But I am not super experienced with watercolor. The only watercolor tubes or pans that I've used were like below student grade, like way below student grade. I've been using watercolor pencils, which I love, but I've not really experimented with or found out. If any of you guys are watching, if you know what good watercolors are out there to suggest, please leave those in the comments here, because I am no help there. I need to research that myself because I would like to get some of each, and I don't know. I imagine I would like the pans just because they would be very similar to working with Inktense blocks, which I already know I love, but I'm not sure. Blue Tea Art said, I've heard people use colored pencils to add values to a watercolor pencil or painting. What is your opinion? I love the mixed media. Now, the thing is, when you do the watercolor, you want watercolor first to where you're completely done with watercolor and then colored pencil on top. You wouldn't want to then go back over with watercolor because now you're adding a water-based product on top of a wax and oil-based pencil. So you just have to watch the order you do it in. But that's one of the things I actually want to do. When I was younger, I loved that sort of mixed media. Watercolor and then colored pencil makes some of the most gorgeous art, in my opinion. So very, very... good way to go. Eileen says, what equipment do you recommend to mist? What brand? If you mean for acrylic painting to keep everything wet, my first one that I used was by Badger, and I think I should have a link on my website. Actually, let's see if it's on my website. Under supply list for acrylic painting. Oh, I need to update my supply list badly. Water oil palette, charcoal, water soluble tracing, transfer, airbrush. Nope. Huh. Do I not have? Oh my gosh, I have to update this so badly. I can't believe that's not on here. Huh. Really? Thanks. Okay, we're going to add that to my very long list of things to do. My supply list is not up to date. So the one that I'm glad I didn't just send you there blindly because you wouldn't have found it. The one that I really like is by Badger makes their, I don't think I have any behind me. It's a single action hobby airbrush, and it's not for painting or anything. It's single action, meaning you have no control over how thick or thin your line is, how much comes out or anything like that. It's one button, and you attach it to a can, and it's about $35. They have them on Amazon. You can get them. I used to get them at Michael's. I'm not sure if they still have them, but that works really well. There's Posh makes one. I hate. Do not buy the Posh airbrush set. I've had to return for the single action one. I've had to have students return that one more than anywhere else. That's the one at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they still carry it. They used to. Had more problems with that thing. The hose is leaking. I mean, just no. Badger, though, I really was happy with usually. I mean, they're cheap, so sometimes you do have to return them anyway, even with Badger. But Posh, it was like every single time. But Badger, I really like theirs, and it's, again, just a single action air kit or airbrush. And then besides that, any good, if you're going to invest in a real airbrush, I really like Grex, but obviously that's a bigger investment than the $35 hobby kit for misting water. So the one that I've always used was Badger's. Hold on, let me see if I can find it on Amazon for you real quick. Amazon. And then I can tell you what to look for. Well, it sure doesn't come up first. Oh my gosh, these are all the expensive ones. This isn't. Here we go. It has 3 stars. Well, it's 3 stars and it's overpriced here right now. Check Michael's, but if you want to, why are these so expensive on here? These should be cheap little kits. Huh. Yeah, but if you want to look up what I'm looking at right now, Badger Air Dash Brush Co. 250-3 basic spray gun set with Propel is what it's listed as, and it's like $40. Oh, because it's not on Amazon Prime. Well, the Prime ones are even more. No, they don't have any on Prime. Huh. Yeah, don't buy that on Amazon right now, but you can look up what it is that I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the one that I used forever. Veek said, how do I learn to layer? I don't even know how to answer that. You put experience. I do know how to answer that. Sometimes it takes me a minute. Experience and practice. And you're going to do a layer and go, wow, that looks bad. Let it dry and put another layer on top. I mean, that's really all it is. There's nothing like, I think you're overthinking it. That's what, and which is super common. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be good at this. It's not like that at all. We all overthink things at points, but I think you're definitely overthinking it. All a layer is, depending on the medium, is you put a layer down, you painted something, you let it dry, and then you put another layer on top. Let it dry. I mean, that is really it. And if you're new to any medium, and I know, Veek, I think you're on Patreon. So I've got videos that walk you through step by step with acrylics, well, with any medium, but I mean, I have one for like your first time painting in acrylics. There's a fish that is really, really good for just step by step. I'll tell you, okay, now we're going to let it dry. Now we're going to paint this next. Do that one. And then from there, you should be good. It's just experimenting and trying things. Octavia said, how are your animal family doing? They are doing great. Yeah, everybody's good. My husband's little baby snake is doing good. He actually texted me earlier saying someone at his work offered 2 bearded dragons and their whole setup. And we both love bearded dragons, but I'm like, that's a lot of critters. Are you sure you want more? Because the more you get, the less time you have for the ones you have. And he goes, no, because he said he'd hold off. Plus, I have a feeling he'd rather get babies and raise them himself. But yeah, I'm glad he decided against that one. But no, everybody's good. Chicken is doing good. I'd bring him in here, except my desk, he'd get lost. It is a nightmare right now. I'm surprised. Like, the only reason I can find my tea is that it's got a big red lid on it. But no, everyone's good. Fish are good. I've got somebody who's going to come and help me move my tank when I move. That's the biggest stress I have with moving the animals is my fish tank. So I've got somebody, I'm doing a trade for a painting that works at Aqua Studios Aquariums, the local fish store I go to. He's going to come help me move that. So hopefully things go well. I'm a bit concerned because I like to stress myself out about nothing. I'm an expert there. Yada Factory said, there's a lot of realistic paintings in your MeWe group. Are impressionistic paintings welcome there too? Absolutely. As long as they follow the rules, no nudes, no trying to sell your work within that group. We have a separate sales group. Have a description on all of your work. I'm trying to think what other rules we have. But yeah, as long as it follows the rules, absolutely. Any style you like. No gore, because we want to keep it real family friendly. Let's see. Julia said, do you use a spray fixative on your finished graphite pencil pieces? Yes, I usually use, the one I'm using right now is Krylon's final fixative or final spray. I forget what it is. It's for graphite. I do want to try some better ones. I just haven't gotten around to ordering them because every time I order supplies, I forget that that's one of the things I need to get. But I've been using the one from Krylon's and that one's been fine, but others are supposed to be better. I'm not sure why. I need to do some research. Let's see. Nick said, I literally wore my my fingertip raw blending with my finger on sanded paper. I'm much more careful now. Yeah, when I blend on sanded paper, I am barely touching it. I use a really light hand. And I always think about that, wondering like, how hard were you pushing your fingers on there to get that to burn a hole through your finger? Which sanded paper were you using? I've been using the Fisher 400, which is pretty smooth. And then I've also used what is the other one? UART 500, which isn't my favorite, but it's like my backup paper. But I can't even imagine how much pressure you must have been using or how hard your paper was for that. I always remember that though when I blend. You posted photos of that too, didn't you? Mrs. Ray says, I have an art question, but just joined and heard about your arthritis. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in high school. Doctor calls it still disease. Is this what you have? Mine's ankylosing spondylitis. I've not heard of still, so I'm not sure what that one is. Elaine said, are you planning on doing any graphite animal drawings? At some point, absolutely. I am trying to do more. Well, I spent 3 weeks doing that graphite portrait, so I get burnt out when I do too many weeks in a row of one medium and then have to go to something else. But no, I do need to do another graphite animal. Any requests on what animals you would like to see? Let me know. Boz says, oh, yep, have you noticed a particular subject and or colors in a painting that tends to sell better than others? Me, no. Bright seems to do better. Although on the flip side, I've sold graphite paintings too, or graphite pieces too. So I guess that kind of kills that one. But I have heard, I remember years ago somebody telling me that a lot of galleries would not bring in paintings that were primarily green. And I don't know if she was talking more about abstract or because landscapes obviously would have a lot of green. But she was saying that they just couldn't sell green paintings, which I thought was interesting. But I have to wonder too, is that just something that's going to go with trends? Right now, everybody likes teal. What happens when everybody likes green again? So I don't know if that's going to make a difference. But for me, no. And actually, this isn't totally kind of related to your question. Yesterday, I dropped off some paintings where I was talking about earlier. I posted a photo of that on Instagram at Aqua Studios Aquariums in the Colony. It's a fish, like a coral. They've got fresh and salt water, but a fish store. And they've also got a ton of really awesome artists' paintings in there. So that sounds like I'm bragging on myself. I was actually talking about the other artists, just to be clear. But I was dropping those off, and they were telling me which of the paintings that I had so far that people are most interested in. And one of them was a certain type of powder blue tang, and which can be very hard to keep going well. They're prone to ick. They're prone to different parasites and stuff. So, but they are a very popular fish. And he was saying that's the painting most people are interested in. And I thought that was really interesting because I have two other fish in there, a clown trigger and a Moorish idol, which honestly, I used better techniques on. I just did a better job on the paintings. I put a little bit more effort into them. And I was surprised because I'm like, I can look at those and clearly see the other two paintings are superior. He said, no, it doesn't. People want that. They want Achilles, things like there's certain types of fish that people are very interested in keeping in their tanks, but it's hard to keep alive. And so those are the ones that they want these paintings of. And I thought that was interesting. So it wasn't about the color either because the other ones were more colorful, which I would have thought would also draw people in. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. You just have to kind of figure out your target market, your target audience. What are they interested in? What types of things do they like? Because it's not always what you think it is. And even me, like I said, I knew I did a better job on the Moorish idol. It's a stronger piece. The clown trigger, I think that's a stronger piece as well. But people were really drawn to a certain type of fish that they have a hard time keeping alive in their tank. So getting to know your target audience or target market, what they're looking for, I think is more important than, colors are going to have a role in that, but I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. It surprised me. It wasn't what I expected. So if you have an opportunity to talk to, like if in this case, there's a place that is selling my work, they are going to have a better idea than I am on what people are looking for because they hear without the person having to worry about offending me. The buyer may not say the same thing to me that they're going to say to the guy who owns the store. So that's a really big deal, I think, as an artist to get that sort of feedback, that sort of honest feedback to find out what people are looking for. And in which case, maybe the color matters, but I never found it to play as much role as you might think. Let's see. Cavium said, I'm working on 2 oil portraits in black and white, and there's a shiny glaze over it that you can see at different angles as well as brush strokes. Any tips to fix it? Yeah, when you're finished, do a gloss varnish. I like, you're doing oils, so I like Gamvar by Gamblin. Use that over the whole thing. It will make it all nice and shiny. If you like shiny, I don't like matte on paintings myself, so the gloss varnish, you put that over everything, and everything will be evenly shiny and no problems at all. But that's normal when you're painting with oils. You'll have hot spots that are extra shiny. So by putting shine over everything, you just solve that problem. And that is going to happen too, depending on how much oil was in the paint and what type of mixing medium. The more mixing medium you're using, that will usually increase shine in those areas. Which isn't a bad thing, it's just so you know how to fix it. Sarah said, you've been very helpful when it comes to painting hair, but how would you paint the shadow that's left behind after a hair is shaved? You would paint it as a shadow. You wouldn't, don't try to force individual hairs. And people do that like on beards, on like a scruffy beard or like the 5 o'clock shadow type thing. Sometimes it is just a shadow without a lot of detail. Sometimes it depends on the length of the hair. Sometimes you could take a small brush and just kind of dot some of those spots and then stick your finger in it to smudge it. That will sometimes work. I mean, it really depends on how much of how short the hair was shaved, what you want to include in that, because you're right, you're not getting the same clumps and clusters. You want to look at your reference photo, zoom in on that reference photo, and copy what you see. It really, and I know people don't like that answer because it seems too simple, but that is what it is with painting or drawing. Copy what you see. Get a reference photo and really zoom in. Are you seeing individual hairs and you're working large? Then maybe you would include those. But if not, then it may just be doing a shadow over the skin there without like trying to get the details. Mercy said, you don't burn a hole through the gloves when using them with any kind of pastel. It doesn't happen when gloves are always, you have to be gentle when painting with all pastel. I'm curious with the paper though, because like a pastel paper wouldn't be a problem, but sanded paper is what we were talking about with burning a hole. So I should have specified that. Valma said, do you accept pictures from subscribers? Pictures for what? Completely depends on what the picture is. If you mean for doing commissions, not usually. I don't typically take commissions, although I may open a few up here and there if it's something that's more interesting, like the one I'm doing with the coral on the guy's face. But I'm not sure what the pictures are of, so don't know how to answer. Casey said, lately when I have been blending in graphite, it's been polished when I use my blending stump, even when I'm not pressing excessively. Any way to help with this? It may be that you're moving the blending stump too fast. It may be that the paper is too smooth, or, you know, a really smooth paper, so it's already going to be prone to that. I'm trying to think. I mean, if you're working slow and in circles, it really shouldn't happen too much. Obviously, the harder you push and the faster you push with that blending stump, that's what'll start to, that repetitive motion is what is going to cause it. So it may be, even though you're light, you're over blending, you're working that area too much. That may do it as well. Maybe you are depending too much on the blending tool and not enough on your pencils. That could be it. Sometimes when you're blending, the pencils alone, especially like the Faber-Castell 9000 series are my favorite for that. Those and the Derwent graphics are really good too. They blend with just the pencil without the blending stump really well on their own, so you don't have to use the blending stump as much. But I suspect you're just working that area too much, and that's what's causing it to polish. And there goes my airbrush. I always forget to turn that off. Elaine said, your staging is incredible. I'm super impressed with how talented you are with that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ursi said, pastels are all kind of delicate. The majority are soft. Rembrandt pastels are kind of hard, but fine. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about pastels because I don't work in them, so I'm not one to get advice from there other than pan pastels. I was talking more about the paper than the pastels themselves. The paper, sanded paper, can burn holes through things and rip, well, apparently your skin open if you're Nick. Let's see. The man plays with bees, but gets in fights with sanded paper. Seems kind of backwards to me. Okay, moving up. I lost a bunch of questions here, so I'm just scrolling back up. Oh my gosh, I am way behind. Let's see if I can start picking this up. I ramble too much. Oh man, I am super, super far behind. What happens with YouTube when it'll randomly like scroll all the way down and I lose my place, so it takes me a minute to get back to where we were. Okay, here we go. I find it amazing that you have stayed in the apartment all these years. I started following you about 5 years ago. Congrats on home ownership. Thank you. I've really loved this apartment. It's been good. I'm not going to miss, like, I always hear my neighbors through the wall that's right next to me. And they're really cool people. I've been very lucky. The people on this side of me, I've had 2 different neighbors there, and they've both been really, really nice. Had some problems with people below me, but overall, we've been pretty lucky. But it is hard to work and record with the noise of neighbors that you're sharing walls with. So I'm definitely looking forward to not having that stress. Although now the only downside will be when you live in a neighborhood and everyone's mowing their lawns on different days. Like, it seems like every day. I do remember that when I lived with my in-laws for a while. It seemed like every day somebody was mowing their lawn, which was kind of makes it a challenge to record because that's hard to plan for. Okay. Violet, I'm not even going to try to say that. 46 says, I started painting a chimpanzee face last week. I redid his face many times, took a photo, redid it again. Photo looks awesome. Feeling defeated. I should have left it alone. Now what? Well, if you redid his face, then chances are you weren't happy with it at any point. And this is a thing that a lot of people will go through. They'll layer on top of layer, and some layers don't come out so great. It's totally okay and totally normal. I would rather see somebody continuously mess with something. If you weren't 100% happy with it and you decided to keep messing with it, it's because you weren't 100% happy with it, so you should keep messing with it. Even if things get worse, it's better than leaving it where you weren't happy with it. You weren't happy with it, which means it was never finished anyway. I would much, much rather see somebody continue to mess with something, continue to work on it, and figure out how to make it look good. Don't just leave it alone because you're afraid, oh, I mean, I guess it's good enough and I don't want to make it worse. If you're not completely happy with it, it is not finished. I would much rather see you make a few bad layers and have to keep going over it until you get to where you like it. Because, I mean, not finished is just not good enough. It was never finished if you weren't happy with it. So you didn't mess anything up. You made some layers you didn't like. Keep painting until you like it and learn as much as you can from that piece. Figure out how to fix it, because knowing how to fix a painting is probably at least as important, if not more important, than knowing how to do it right. Because when you're hired to do a painting, you're doing a commission, inevitably something is going to go wrong. You're going to have a brush mark go where you didn't want it. Something is going to happen. You need to figure out how to fix that. And that is so important. So in your case, you could learn so much more by fixing these mistakes than you would have if everything went super smooth and you got it all done, first time through. But don't ever beat yourself up or feel like you made a bad choice in continuing to work on something. Worst case scenario, you let it dry and you go over it because you weren't finished anyway. You're not out anything. You're only out something if you call it finished before you're actually finished and don't learn because of it. So I don't think you did anything wrong. I do understand feeling defeated. But no, you shouldn't have left it alone. You were right to keep messing with it. The fact that you had any desire to keep messing with it means it wasn't good enough yet. So keep messing with it and learn what you can from it. This isn't a bad thing. It can be frustrating. Trust me, I get that. But it's also one of the best learning experiences you can have. You've got to figure out how to fix this now. That's a good thing. So just keep layering until you like it. Hillary said, I'm sure you get this a lot, but how do you deal with hate, rude comments on your art? I almost feel like to be an artist, you have to develop a slight sense of narcissism, because you need to think your work is, it's weird because you're going to have this never ending conflicting thing. You've got to feel that your work is awesome, but you've also got to be realistic and know where you need to improve. So it's a very odd thing that artists have to be able to do. If you don't have that hint of, or dash of narcissism, I think when people criticize your work, it can really beat you down. Whereas on the flip side, if you're too narcissistic and you think everything you do is flawless, then you don't improve either. So you kind of balance those two contradicting things together. But as far as the rude comments, you have to consider who is leaving those rude comments. It sure is not somebody who you are going to respect the opinion of. If you think of any artist that you admire, think of a famous artist. Like, I'm trying to think of a famous artist. I'm really bad. Let's say, like Christian Lassen. Christian Lassen was always one of my favorite Marine artists. And I've got more favorites now, but I mean, we'll use him as an example. Whoa, it's getting windy out there. Because he's, Christian Lassen, again, as a kid, growing up, I just grew up loving his work. So, if he came and criticized my work, I might take that seriously. He doesn't have time to come criticize some random girl on the internet's work. He's not going to do that. Who's going to criticize it? Somebody else who doesn't know how to paint. Somebody who is not working too hard. He doesn't have time because he's too busy making awesome paintings. And his is the only opinion that someone like him would be the opinion that I cared about. The person who's leaving me nasty comments, I had one girl that kept doing that on Instagram. I blocked her finally. I got sick of it. That no matter what I paint, I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like your attitude. Bye. My life was significantly easier after that because I got sick of this girl just continuously leaving these nasty negative comments. I don't think she was, I don't think she realized what she was doing. I think that I don't know what was going on there. But anyway, you look at the people who are leaving these comments, if possible, look at their work. It is pretty much never going to be somebody who you admire. I look at the criticism, the nastiest comments I get, and if the person even posts their work, which usually they don't, usually it's people who aren't even creating, those nasty comments come from people who are, I don't know if they're intimidated by those of us who are actually creating, those of us who are improving ourselves, but you look at their work and you're thinking, I'm not sure why you think you're in a place to criticize anybody. You don't know how to paint yet yourself. Why are you being rude to somebody who is doing something with themselves? But normally the people who are criticizing don't do anything. They don't know. My attitude with that generally, I mean, if somebody just gives me constructive criticism, that's one thing. But when people start just making rude comments and they want to be nasty, see ya, blocked. I love the block feature. And you'll always get the people who do the whole, oh, but my free speech. You have free speech. I don't think free speech means what you think it means. It means you're not going to get arrested for your stupid words. But I also have the freedom to block you. We have freedoms. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequence from your words. It means the government's not going to come in and arrest you because you said something somebody didn't like. So that's kind of my attitude. I don't like the negativity. I don't like somebody who is like that. Somebody who is going to, and they'll even say with YouTube to leave negative comments up because it will generate more activity on the video. People will come and comment back and back and forth. I don't want to see it. I don't want to read it. It doesn't make me feel happy. I don't have any time for, I don't care about what those, somebody like that who says. So just keep that in mind. And every single artist ever is going to get somebody who tells them they don't like things. Now, art is subjective. Just because one person doesn't like it doesn't mean this other person's not going to see it and be like, this is the best painting I have ever seen in my life, and it's going to touch that person. It is too subjective. So even then, you just can't take the random internet rudeness to heart too much. And you'll get people too who are like, well, I'm just trying to help yourself. I saw your work on yours and stop worrying about mine. That's usually the type of person who are making those comments. So just keep that in mind. The people who are being rude they don't matter. Their opinion doesn't matter. They weren't going to buy from you anyway. So that's another reason why I have no problem blocking them. It's like, if you're going to make that kind of a comment to my stuff, you're not going to be a customer. You're probably not going to sign up to take my lessons. Like, why? I have no need for you in my life. And that's my way. Can you tell I'm super itchy tonight? I keep scratching my nose and I'm having massive allergy issues. But, my nose is driving me insane. But anyway, sorry. That would be my attitude with that, and how I deal with it is just I don't take them too seriously. If it was Christian Lassen, that'd be one thing. If it was Jason Morgan, that'd be another thing. And the funny thing is, I can go to Jason Morgan and say, hey, what do you think about this? And he'll give me his honest opinion. That's who I want advice from. Somebody that I go to and ask. Somebody who is just leaving random nasty comments on there. Like, think any artist, you in any like colored pencil groups. Who are the people who leave rude comments? People who don't know how to draw. The people who are amazing in those groups, none of them leave mean comments to anybody ever. So just be aware of that. I think it's an important thing to understand and not take too seriously or take to heart. KJ Pickett said, "Hi Lisa, I've been struggling to do any art at all recently, and since I found out I'm suffering with anxiety. You don't have to answer personally, but tips to know what to do with this." Oh, I can relate lately. I don't normally deal with anxiety, except now the move and the stress of everything being a mess in here is adding to it. The stress of trying to figure out what days, because I need to plan for things, and with this move, it's like closing date's probably the 12th, but maybe it'll get pushed back. And oh my gosh, I have been dealing with that lately. As far as making yourself paint or, struggling to do art, I give myself like tonight when I'm done with this, because I'm going to be behind since I couldn't paint during the live stream, I'm going to take a break for an hour, and then I'm going to go sit down and make myself paint for about 2 hours. I give myself you're going to sit here, even if you have anxiety, you're going to sit down, have some tea or a glass of wine sometimes, but you're going to sit down and paint, and from this time to this time, and I make myself do it. I'm very, I guess, structured in that. I like structure. So I'm very, once I get into, and I think most people do, once you get into a habit of things, like I recently redid my schedule, and now that I'm in a habit of it, I want to stick to that. And knowing I'm going to sit down from this time to this time and the same time the next day, whether I have anxiety or not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do it. Like that kind of structure, I think that is how I'm getting through this myself. I don't know if that's going to be the same for everybody, but I definitely haven't been feeling like, oh, I'm going to go sit down and paint like I normally would. My thing is, I've got to get it done. It's my job. You have to do it whether you've got to go to work, whether you're anxious or not. But that's been working for me, just having I'm going to paint from this hour to this hour. And it's working as a good distraction. Once I get going with painting, I find that the anxiety kind of dissipates a bit. But yeah, I definitely can relate to you right now, which I normally wouldn't be able to. I really feel sorry for people that deal with anxiety on a regular basis. I can certainly relate a little bit better now. But yeah, try to set a time that even if you're not in the mood, you're just going to sit down, and even if you're just doodling, even if you're playing in a coloring book, something just to get back in that habit of, this is what I do at this time. That would be my tip. It's working for me anyway. Patty Picasso says, "I hate Facebook competitions with a passion. Like, share, jump in the sea." What's funny? People who say that you need to share a post or to enter a contest, those are a violation of Facebook's terms of service. You're not even supposed to do that. Heather said, "How would a mason jar do for holding OMG?" I think you mean OMS. It should be okay, just don't tip it on its side. It'd be kind of awkward. It's a bit large, I think, for OMS. It would be fine for, if I'm oil painting, I would be okay with that. But for colored pencil, I like a smaller jar, so I think they would be a bit too large for me. But even then, you need to make sure you don't tip it on its side. I don't know how they would handle as far as leaking. I swear, OMS can find its way out of anything. So just keep it upright and you should be okay. But I've not tried it myself, so I can't say for certain. Elaine said, "Any tips on graphite for the white areas on the muzzle and nose area of animals? I use a blending stump and Tombow mono eraser, but it's a struggle." Yeah, you need to do the reverse. You need to leave the white paper showing through and draw in the dark areas. Don't shade it and try to pull the whites back up. You're going to have a really hard time getting them light enough. Now, on the only way that I will do that usually, where I'll shade it with graphite and then pull the lights up, or when I shade it with either graphite powder, because that actually erases very, very well with your Tombow mono eraser, or shade it with a blending stump and then pull it up with the eraser. But if you shade it with a pencil, it's not going to erase very well. So those would be my two ways: either graphite powder and then erase, a blending stump and then erase. My brain shut down, and that's been happening so much lately. Or just work in reverse. Leave the white of the paper and fill in the dark areas around it with your pencils. With me, I would probably do a combination of all those things. Nancy said, "Have you ever used water mixable oils? If yes, which would you recommend?" I did, and I hated them with a fiery passion. Yeah, no, not a fan. I didn't find them to be less, like, they still had an odor to them. You still have to use a mixing medium. They don't, like, my head, I was like, oh, water mixable oil. Does that mean instead of using a mixing medium, you use water? No, not really. They clean up with soap and water. Well, technically regular oil paint will too with the Dawn. But they say that they're less toxic. I don't know how much less, if at all. I didn't like them. I came from using regular oils first, and I picked up some water soluble thinking, oh, these will be like easier to just blend with water, and that's not really how you use them. You still use a mixing medium. I was not a fan. If I'm going to work with oils, I'm going to work with the real thing. If I want a water soluble paint, then I go with my acrylics. And people get mad at me for saying that. That was actually one of the first videos that I got a lot of hate on when I did a Q&A. Somebody asked my opinion, and I shared my opinion, and everyone told me my opinion was wrong. I'm like, I don't think you understand what an opinion is. It's an opinion. I'm not stating facts. I'm stating what I don't like about things. But yeah, it's I didn't like it. And there are like amazing artists. I think Lori McNee is one. She does water soluble oils, and her stuff is stunning. So obviously you can paint beautiful things with them. It's just not my preference. I like the real thing, and I like the smell of the real thing. I mean, the other one still had odor, but not the same. It didn't smell as nice to me as real oils. Casey said, do the smaller quantities of OMS come in containers that have little spring apparatus at the bottom to wipe your brushes against? Smaller quantities of OMS. I'm not sure no OMS that I've seen is set up like that. Like OMS is in a separate container that you know, it comes in one container and you pour it into another container that would have what you're talking about. I don't think anything just comes with it all in one. Yeah, no, I've never seen anything like that. You can get smaller containers that have that in there. Now, one of the things you can do too, actually I have them right here. You can use these things called the paint puck, and just for transparency, they did send these to me, but I actually really like them. I've been testing them out for over a year. I did a video on these recently, and I have one with my colored pencil things, and I have one with it's been in OMS. So you could put it at the bottom of a mason jar. You could put it, I had mine in the bottom of my little plastic lock and lock thing. And these things held up really well. If you want something to wipe your brush against, they would work for oil as well, or, you know, for oil paint as well, because I did have them in OMS to test. And yeah, I've been pretty happy with those. So those are called, I guess I should tell you what they are. They're called Paint Puck, Paint, P-U-C-K, Puck. You can get those on Amazon. But I did like those quite a bit. And like I said, I used them for a year, had it sitting in OMS for a year. It's still sitting in it. I thought I'd put it in the jar just to test for my color, just because it was in with the colored pencils container. And I kind of got used to it. Now I like it in there. So yeah, those are a really cool way to go if you want a smaller container. What brand of watercolor pencils do I recommend? That's a hard one. I have used 3. And I really liked all 3. So I can't say, I think you would be happy with any of them. So you've got Derwent. They were the first one that I used. And beautiful color saturation. Not the most light fast. They are the least light fast of the bunch that I'm going to talk about. But they also were the least expensive. So if you're not selling your work and you just want to play with them, there's that. The Caran d'Ache, they're watercolor pencils. Caran d'Ache claims that they're more like real watercolor, not opaque. Yeah, no, they're more like gouache. I wouldn't call them, I would lean more towards gouache, which is opaque watercolor, than watercolor with those. But beautiful to work with one exception. I had a very hard time getting dark purple. But they were nice as well, but more opaque. So if you want something more watercolor-like, that would have been the Derwent. The Caran d'Ache were more opaque. And then recently, I've used the Faber-Castell, their watercolor pencils. They're like Derwent, more watercolor-like. They're not super opaque. Beautiful to work with. All 3 of those I liked. So if I could only choose one, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. They're all, I mean, the Derwent and Faber-Castell were more similar in that they were both watercolor-like, very, very translucent. Faber-Castell, very light fast compared to the not so light fast Derwent, but the not so light fast Derwent is a lot cheaper. So you've got your pros and cons, depends on what you're looking for. And then you've got the Caran d'Ache version was more opaque. So that's the difference between all of them, but I did like them all for different reasons. Angela said, I keep my OMS in a stainless steel pot with a rubber gasket, actually made for holding water to rinse your brush. Not sure if that's a good choice, but it's what I have at the moment. You know, they make those type of things. I'm not sure if they're stainless steel, but I know they make the little metal cups. I saw them at Hobby Lobby with that gasket around it, that rubber seal, and that was for OMS. So I would imagine, I'm not sure on your specific one, but I know they make the metal ones for holding OMS, so I would think it'd be okay. I'm not positive. The Badger 350. Yeah, that is the set for the airbrush. Or the misting water. You are correct. Rachel said, I'm getting into colored pencils and just got my first set of Faber-Castell Polychromos. Should I use those first before I use my Prismacolor? I wouldn't, but I used, let's see. I'll just give you my experience just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from, because I'm going to have a bias because of this. I used Prismacolor for years. I mean, like 15 years. I don't know, a very, very long time, because that's really all that was available here in the US. And this was well before the internet that I started using them. I'm old. So I was using those, and over the years, the quality control got so bad. They're breaking constantly. And back when I started using them, I did not know a lot about Lightfast. So this is something to keep in mind. A good like third or 50%, I mean, a lot of the Prismacolor pencils are not Lightfast. So do be aware of that. You can look up the charts online to tell you which ones are art. But I had no idea back then, so that wasn't a concern for mine. What got me was I was so sick. I couldn't get very many layers. I couldn't get the detail as fine as I wanted. And I couldn't get the pencils to stop breaking. And when I first started using them, they were great, but over the years it got to where, I mean, I'd sharpen a pencil and it'd be broken all the way down within it. And yes, there are tricks that you can make. You can melt them and you can do this and that, and there's a million hoops you can jump through to get your pencils to work. I want to jump through 0 hoops when I'm using my art supplies. I just want them to do what they're supposed to do. So I got sick of them, and that's when I switched to polychromos. Once I started using polychromos, I had no desire to use my Prismas. You can mix them together. You can use them both at the same time, but it's hard for me to answer or tell you, use your Prismacolors first, use them together. But I thought that I would use up my Prismas. I didn't. I mean, I keep them here if I need to do a quick test to see how that works with, you know, different papers or whatever. But I never wanted to use them again after I started using the polychromos. So I don't know if that's helpful for you. I thought I would use my Prismas a lot more than what I did once I got the polychromos. It was like, yeah, no, done with those. It's nice to have a pencil that doesn't break constantly. Beek said, I guess I mean, what is the purpose of layering? I don't understand. It's to get the results of the end. I'm not reading this right. I'm sorry. I understand it's to get the result in the end that you want. Is it again just practicing light to dark? Sorry, this is redundant. No, actually, it's a good question. I understand way better now. So the point of layering, okay, it depends on the medium, but in general with most, and you're going to see this more with acrylics and oil than with some of the others, but with acrylics and oils, your light is going to refract through each layer. So there are a few benefits to layering, but it refracts through each layer and it kind of bounces around between each layer of paint, and you end up with a lot of depth. This is not something you see in photograph, but something that you're going to see in person when you look at the painting. You'll have a lot more depth to that piece, the more layers you have like that. So bonus there, the more layers, the more depth, and it looks really nice in person. The other thing though, with layering, it's just the way, it's just the method that we paint, that a lot of us will paint. Not everybody paints in layers, but it's a method of knowing, it's not darks over lights or lights over darks. It really isn't about that. It's experience. It's hard to explain it. It's mainly, you need to paint more is what has to happen. And you're going to start realizing, oh, when I layered this one over that one, I didn't like the results I got. When I layered it this way, I really liked it. It's experience. I think, I'm trying to think if there's other better ways for me to explain that. I mean, obviously the light refracting through, getting more depth. Now with acrylics, part of that is going to be, I mean, okay, so you're not going to get, I don't want to paint by number look, not my end goal. I want something that looks more realistic. And if I try to do paint by number type thing, you know, it's just a harsh paint goes where that right color, it just doesn't look right to me. So I do it in layers where I try to get each layer to look as much like I want it to in the end. So it's not like I have this plan in my head. I'm going to need 15 layers. Layer 1's going to be this. Layer 2's going to be this. It's not a recipe. And I'm not like thinking through how exactly what each layer is going to be. What I do, each layer, I try to get it as close to what I want that end result to be. And then I layer a closer end result. And I keep doing more and more layers that get closer and closer to that end result, that end desire that I have for that piece. And I'm going to layer until it looks how I want it to. But the bonus of layering or glazing, if you're going to glaze, is that you do get more depth the more layers you have like that, because always, I mean, even the opaque layers, some of the previous layers are going to show through at least a little bit. And so that adds a little bit of extra detailing and subtle. It's not something someone necessarily looks at and notices or realizes they're seeing, but that's going to be another thing. But as I'm working, and really colored pencil, same thing, each layer, my goal is to have that layer look as finished as possible. I want it to look like my final layer, even knowing it's never going to be. I'm going to need another 10, 15 layers on top of that. But that is kind of how I look at it, as is get this as close to my final goal as possible for each layer. I hope that helps. But a lot of it, I think with you, a lot of what it's going to come down to is paint more. You have to paint more, and don't worry so much about it. I think right now you're getting ahead of yourself on some of these things, and this is so common. Trust me, I do it all the time. But somebody will mention something, and maybe you're not quite ready for that to matter. Like, those techniques don't really matter right now. You're still at the experimental stage. Don't stress yourself out yet about those things. The more you paint, what'll happen is you'll hear something, like you'll be painting, and something will happen and you'll be like, oh, I heard someone talk about this exact thing, and it's going to make sense to you then. But when I talk about layers, it doesn't really make sense until you've experienced it enough. So you've got to just spend more and more time painting. Now you can follow along with the tutorials. That's going to help you for sure to see the way that we're layering things. Now acrylic is a little bit different in the reason that I might layer something. With acrylics, it dries too quickly, so I can't just paint like, I'm trying to think of something. Like I have a tree frog over here that I painted, that I painted the background separate from the frog, and everything was kind of painted separate. With acrylics, I don't do it that way because the background, it dries too fast. If I want a smooth background, I need to paint right through there like the frog's not even there. Just paint the whole background, and then I draw in the frog, and then paint a solid layer to cover up the background, like paint it white or some kind of opaque color, light opaque color, and then I can paint the frog over that. So sometimes the layering is just a matter of, because acrylics dry so fast, I need to do the whole background first. Or like the painting that just went up, yesterday, there was the shelf. I had to do the background, then I had to paint the shelf, and then I painted the roses on the shelf, then I painted the frame. You know, they were layered that way just because I have to build from the back and work my way forward in order to get what's in the back to look blended smoothly. That is a lot of words. Good luck understanding them. Moral of the story, go paint more and experiment. You need to go paint a lot of ugly things before half the stuff I'm saying is going to make sense. And that's okay. That's normal. Or any books that you're reading will start to make sense. You have to paint more. That's the key to understanding half the stuff, the nonsense that's coming out of my mouth, basically. Okay, let's see. Cindy says, hi Lisa, hope you've been doing well. I painted the jack-o'-lantern on logs and am having trouble with the smoke without an airbrush. I've tried 2 times and it didn't work. Any tips? Dry brush strokes dry. I would, 2 ways I would do this. 1, transparent mixing white. That is your friend. You mix it with water, and you're going to build this up in multiple layers until it gets to the opacity that you want. And in the areas that you want to be really opaque, then you're going to go over with your titanium white. But this way, the edges that need to be softer, you've done that with your transparent mixing white. And the way that I do that, hold on, I'm trying to think which video. I have an old video. It's not a good one, but it will show you. Oops, let me see. Look up Lachri, just type in the words Lachri, how to paint fog, or Lachri fog. And the first one that comes up, or at least for me, is this one where I'm painting rain. It's rain and fog in that one. But the way that I painted the fog in that with the transparent mixing white and then putting a little bit of that over it, I would do that, but more layers. So let it dry in between layers so you can slowly build up to the opacity, but that's going to give you that softer look. Now you can also, I've seen a few people paint that same one and just paint brush strokes, just normal wet into wet brush strokes, and it still looked cool. It didn't look exactly like the airbrush, but it looked good. I think one of the keys is do not expect your paint brush strokes. Don't get frustrated that they don't look like the airbrush. Nothing looks just like the airbrush. The airbrush is a very unique medium and it gives you a very unique look. But you can get something so similar. In our art group, at the Lachri Fine Art Group, we had some people who did the same painting, and oh my gosh, amazing, and they painted theirs. It didn't look the same as the airbrush, but that didn't mean it was bad. That's the other thing. Don't think because yours doesn't look exactly like your reference photo, or it doesn't look exactly like mine, that it's bad. Different is not bad. It still looked like fog. The things that the other artist painted, they still looked like fog, which was great. It was just different, a different way to approach it. So yeah, I would go with the transparent mixing white and use a brush and kind of soften the edges. And I show you in that one video with the fog how I took a second brush to kind of smudge it around and just build up that way. Remember, the center of the fog, when you get more towards the center, it's going to be more dense, and you may want to switch at that point to your titanium white, which is going to be more opaque, but use the transparent mixing white around the edges. Now, you technically could just use titanium white and smudge the edges. Your edges will just be a bit more opaque than what you would get with the other. Play around with it and experiment. It absolutely can be done, but don't be too frustrated if it's not the same. I mean, the airbrush, like I said, very, very unique in some of the special effects that it can achieve that would look different. You can get something similar, but it will look different when painted with a brush. And of course, with that may be a thing if you are using a really, really smooth canvas, like a watercolor canvas board, I think is what I used on that one. So that would have worked. Trying to think what else. Like the Frederick's Blue Label Ultra Smooth, the Belgian Linen, Frederick's Belgian Linen Pro Series canvases. Those are super, super smooth. You use something really smooth, you can get away with dry brushing and have it not look like dry brush, because I don't like the look of dry brush. That would be a case where dry brushing, if your canvas is smooth enough, it can give you the look that you want there too. And what dry brushing is there's not much paint or water on your brush. It's fairly dry, and you just kind of work that in circles, and that may give you a really good effect too. Rachel said, when I asked about animals for graphite unicorn, possibly that I've not, it's been years since I painted or drew a unicorn. Possibly. Elaine said, graphite animal drawings, fuzzy dogs or cats, because I'm struggling with muzzles. Also, background ideas. I kind of want to do the cat one, because like a cat, a domestic cat, because I don't think I've done one of those as a tutorial in graphite. I know I've done dogs. That is very, very likely. I kind of like the unicorn idea too, though. Robert says, draw a horse. Well, if I did the unicorn, that would fit for you too. Maybe I'll just have to draw both. Moody Roan Studio said, have you tried the Creative Mark Black Swan brush from Jerry's Artorama? I recently bought them and they're great, and they're reasonably priced too, which is always nice. I have not. I will have to look into those. I've tried a few Creative Marks things. They're typically like low, like student grade type stuff. I don't like their canvases. I'm not a huge fan of most of their stuff, but their paint, I have tried other paint brushes of theirs and I did like those. So I'll have to look into those ones. I've not tried the specific ones you've talked about, but I've tried some other Creative Mark brushes. They work with Smart Art Box a lot, and sometimes they're okay, some of their supplies, but sometimes definitely not as okay. Like, I'm not a fan of their canvas boards are terrible. But yeah, no, their brushes though, I've liked some of those, so I'll have to look into those. Sally said, do you have a video for staging your paintings when you're going to take pictures of them? I don't think I do. That would be a good one, though. I'm going to have to do... if nothing else, I need to take some videos or some photos of when I do that. I like that. I really do like that. I think I'm going to... if you don't see one from me after I move, after a few months, remind me, because I really, really like that idea. That would be a good video. Yes, I need to do that. And I just scrolled too far. Oh my gosh, way too far. Way too far. Oh my gosh. Sorry, this will take me a minute. Hi, Than. Than from Tidal Gardens is here. I need to send him his cat in coral drawing. Oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. Well, I don't even know if Than's still here. So, sorry if I missed you. Because these, okay, here we go. I'm getting caught up. Sally, we got that one. Bob says, I am doing an oil painting and would like to re-oil the surface. It's dry now before I do the next layer. Can I use liquid? Or I have never done that. I mean, I'd imagine you could. What's going to happen if you put liquid over everything? It's going to be really slippery when you try to paint on top of that. I just personally prefer to mix the paint, the consistency I want with the liquid in the first place. I've never tried putting that first. I guess it would depend on what kind of technique you were going for, because that would get super, super slippery and the paint's not going to want to stick to the canvas very well at that point. So it's definitely not my technique, but I can't say that it wouldn't work. You just have to play with that. Octavia said, I've been looking at videos on people becoming full-time artists. My question is, how do you know when your artwork is at a level that can sell? Well, when people are willing to buy them, you can put them on eBay. You can try that. I mean, when people start offering to buy them and actually you start receiving money, you know they're good enough. But, throw them on eBay and see what happens. eBay is hard. That's why I want to do that test video and try a few things and make videos out of it and let you guys know how it went for me. But I mean, be reasonable. I think that's going to be one of the things too. Look at artists who are selling. How does your work compete with that? Now, I'm not saying, one of the worst advices that is out there that goes around like crazy is never compare yourself to another artist, and that's bull. If you actually want to be successful, please do compare your work to other artists, because there's many things you can learn from theirs. We want to learn from the other artists, in which case you have to compare. That is one of the worst, maybe I should make a separate video on that. Worst advice, one of them given, is never to compare yourself to another artist. That's great if you're a hobby artist and don't care if you improve. But anyway, you might want to look at what's selling. Is yours at that level? I mean, if you put yours next to theirs, do you think yours would sell? Now, I'm not saying it has to sell for the same price, or maybe look at it and would you buy that? Whatever you've completed. Now, I'm not familiar with your work, so please do not take offense to that, but be honest. And if you would not buy that for what you're asking, if you saw that painting, would you buy it and put it on your wall? Would you be willing to give your own money for the amount you're asking? If not, then maybe you're not there yet. I mean, you could try. It's not going to hurt to try. But, it may hurt your ego at worst. But try to be reasonable. And I think that's when I was talking about earlier, where as artists, we have to combine a little bit of narcissism with a little bit of reality, and in knowing our work is not as good as we want it to be, so that we continue to improve. You've got to kind of find that balance. And I think it's the same thing with selling. You've got to find the confidence to, if people don't like it, they don't like it, whatever. That doesn't mean I'm going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to try harder now. But do be realistic and look at what else is out there, and would you buy it? If not, it could be as simple as your friends start begging you for your artwork. When people are begging you and they really want to hang your work on their wall, that I think is a good time to know that you're ready. But it's so subjective. Just because one person doesn't like it doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't. You just have to find that person. So it's kind of hard to say, but hopefully those tips will help. Angela said, how can we find the group on MeWe where we can sell? While I'm not ready to sell, I would love to see what the community has to offer. Oh, we've not been using it often. Let's see. Because we need to get more people on MeWe in the first place. Let me look. It is called Buy and Sell Artwork. So if you just look up Buy and Sell Artwork, that is the name of the group. So yeah, we have not been, someone posted that's pretty. People are posting mostly right now prints on Fine Art America. Oh, it's all the same person. We're going to have to do something about that. We definitely do not want just the same person posting the same thing over and over. So we want to get some balance in there, which means the rest of us need to post. And we need to decide if we want to, we're going to have to go over we need some work on the group at this point. But yeah, go definitely check that out. Let's see. Velma said, I have a picture of a log that has a look of an octopus and just wanted to give it to you and see what you might do with it. You have a picture of a log that has a look. Yeah, I'd be interested. Tag me on social media like Instagram or something and I can see it. That's cool. Ariel said, do you have any tips for getting that bumpy texture of a dog's nose in oil paint? I'm trying to come up with a good plan of attack. So don't do what I used to do. I used to look for some crazy trick, like something that was going to make it easier. I just needed to know the right brush and I could just dab it and it'd be done. Yeah, technically it kind of works. Look at your lights and your darks. How big is the piece you're working on? If you want it to look like a photograph and you can see every little line in there, you're going to need to work a bit larger. Keep that in mind. The size is going to have to do with how big you get it. Sometimes the size is so small, it's just going to be the shadow, where your highlights and where are your values? Lights and darks. Get those in the right place. It depends on how big that is. But if you're trying to get those details, it's not like you're going to get brush number 300 whatever and you're going to dab it and then done. You're going to have to sit there with a liner brush and paint what you see. It goes back to that thing that no one wants to hear. I sure as heck didn't. Paint what you see. Look at the details and paint what's there. God, I wish, I need to pull them up. I'm sure my mom has them. Next time I visit, I'm going to get some photos of these. The way that I used to paint coral, I would take an actual sponge or just a paintbrush and I would pretty much just stab everything with a paint and like blob it on there. And yeah, I guess you could tell it was supposed to be coral, kind of. If you tilted your head the right direction and squinted a little, but it didn't look like what my coral looks now. At all. You wouldn't even know it was the same artist. But I was looking for this like trick to make everything work. There isn't one. You look at what you see and you take your time and paint those details. Where are your lights? Where are your darks? What is, oh, I have MeWe open. That is why. Let's close that, or we're going to keep getting noises. But that's really what it is zoom in really close, get a good reference photo, and if you're looking for that kind of detail, you have to work fairly large, but unless you're working in color pencil, you can get away with a bit smaller. But yeah, that is my tip there. Let's see, we have, and oh, by the way, Tidal Gardens, if you were not aware, speaking of coral and painting coral, that is where I get my coral photos now. That was another problem. One of the reasons that my coral photos are back then, I didn't have good photos of corals. I didn't have the detail that we can see now, and so that definitely was not helping. Getting a good reference photo, and the little plug for Tidal Gardens here, they're over on Patreon. If you just look up Tidal Gardens, it's $5 a month is the one I'm doing. I think you can, I forget what the next tier is, but you get all of the past ones too if you're behind and need some extra photos. But you get like, God, what is it, 50 photos a month for $5 of these amazing high resolution, like, holy crap, that is amazing level of corals. So check him out. I will actually, hold on, let's just pull one up. I will show you really quick. We're gonna put an image, maybe, so you can see one of these. Give me 1 second. I just downloaded a bunch of them. Yesterday, actually. I've got a whole file just for coral photos. Oh, this is taking way longer than I thought it would. I'm sorry. Because I don't know where I save stuff. And apparently do not know the alphabet to find things more easily. Okay, which one of these would be good on small scale? That's pretty cool. We'll go with that one. So this is one from Tidal Gardens. Oh, that's big. Let's shrink that down. But you get this level of amazing, amazing photos. So for artists, I mean, and we have full right to use it in our artwork. You get that. That's part of that license. But look at how amazing that photo is. And I mean, they're huge resolution, amazing, amazing shots. So that is where I'm getting my corals now to paint in for all of this stuff, like the painting that I'm starting, well, later tonight. That's where all of these corals are going to come from. So having a good reference photo, whatever it is that you're painting, is such a big deal if you are trying to get things more accurate. And for those of you who like to paint corals, definitely check out Tidal Gardens. It doesn't cost very much, for $50 a month. It's so many amazing photos. Anyway, moving on from my advertisement there. Let's see. Kelly says, I'm trying to pick a reference photo for my next picture, and I like the lighting and background of one photo, but the pose of another. Any tips on deciding? Can you combine the two? I mean, whenever possible. I do that all the time, or I'll combine I guess it depends on how similar they are and what it actually is, but I like to try to combine the two photos whenever possible. But for the most part, the lighting is priority to me. If you've got interesting lighting, that usually will come before a good angle. But if you can combine the two, that would be ideal. But yeah, I definitely put more weight in light and detail there than I do in angle. I mean, they both matter, but that would be my personal preference. Mrs. Ray said, I'd love to hear how you sold your first painting and how you got into painting in the first place. I recently picked up painting and tried selling some at local fairs, but don't seem to have much luck. Local fairs are hard to sell at. People don't go there to buy and pay much for painting, so that's already not the easiest place to try to sell, so don't be frustrated with that. My first painting, I don't remember. I think I sold, no. I think people had probably bought some from me, just like individual, but I do remember I had my stuff at Angel's Galleria in the Pomona Arts Colony back in, when would that have been, like 98, right around there, and 97? No, 98. I don't know, sometime around that time period. And I know that's where I really started selling more of them, but no, it may have been even earlier than that on eBay. Or no, eBay wasn't before that. I'm trying to think of time. Yes, I'm that old. I'm before the internet. So yeah, no, I want to say Angel's Galleria maybe eBay, right around the same time. So maybe Angels wasn't that early. Maybe that was 99. But right around there, it was one or the other. But eBay and Angels were the two main places that I was selling. eBay used to sell a lot more. It was easier to sell, and that's why I want to do that experiment and see how it goes now, with what I've learned since. But that is how I started painting. How I got into painting in the first place. I was 19, and I thought I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as a career. I thought I wanted to get into graphic design, and I was like, yeah, and maybe not. And I was kind of going back and forth. I wanted to train dogs for the police because I do train dogs, but I wanted to do a bunch of different things, and I couldn't decide. I was with a friend walking down. I'm from Southern California, so we're walking down at Laguna Beach, and I primarily painted. That's all I was really interested in at the time, were marine paintings. I loved to paint marine stuff, and I saw another artist was selling her work out on like one of those, I want to say gondola, but that's not the right word. I always say gondola, and that's not the word I mean, but it's like an outdoor little thing. Pergola? Is that the word? I don't know. But she was out there selling her artwork, and she was selling it for thousands of dollars, and it wasn't very good. I know that's super mean to say, but it's important to go with the story. So, I mean, her perspective was off, and I'm thinking, I'm 19 and my stuff is more accurate. So I decided at that point, like, well, if you can, and I was super wrong because I didn't understand how this works. I'm thinking, if she's selling it for that much, I'm going to make a ton of money. I'm going to get rich selling my paintings. So not how things work. You have to build a name for yourself. It's like, yeah, no. And she likely had money before in order to be able to afford this place out on Laguna, because that's a super expensive place to sell. So, and it didn't appear that her booth was super busy. So, I mean, I didn't understand a lot of stuff with the art business at the time, but that's how I was like, well, if she can do that, that's what I want to do. So I was working at animal hospitals. Actually, at that time, I was not. I ended up working at animal hospitals. Then I was working at a pet store. I worked at Sam's Club. I worked at a grocery store. I had a bunch of different jobs. I had multiple jobs at the same time. And then I worked at an animal hospital for many years while I built up my art career. But that's how I got started into that. The misconception that, oh, if this person's selling it for that much and I think mine's better, I'm going to make even more money. Yeah, so not how things work. But I'm glad that I'm glad I misunderstood how things worked, because knowing how hard the road was to get to here, I'm not sure if I would have made the same choices at the time if someone told me then. But now that I've arrived at this location, I'm really glad I made those choices back then. So yeah, that's how I got into it. But local fairs, art shows and stuff like that, people normally go to look. It's really hard to sell at that sort of event. People normally don't want to spend more than, $20, $40, $50. So if you have prints, that's the way to go. If you've got a lot of prints, you're going to be more likely to sell those than the originals for hundreds of dollars. So you want to bring the originals to draw attention, but you're probably going to sell more of the prints on that side of things. Let's see. Yada Factory said, do you ever get bored with a piece? What do you do to combat that? Oh my gosh, yes. I have about an attention span of 2 days, 3 days. I hit longer than that on a piece, and I'm like, I have to really force myself sometimes to get through it. Now, luckily, once I get towards the end of the piece, I start getting more interested in it again. But oh yeah, I absolutely, some of these paintings that I've done where I spent like a month on it, that's why I can't do I mean, I can, but I don't like to do paintings that take me a really, really long time, because I get so bored with them and burnt out. So absolutely. And the way that I do it is just to hurry up and try to, make myself sit down. And I don't mean to rush it, but I mean, spend some extra time, maybe paint longer one night or a few nights in a row to get it done so that I can move on to something else, because, oh yes, I get bored with pieces a lot. Oh, it looks like people are highlighting for you, Judy. Judy asked how far my new home is from where I live now. It's about 40 minutes, so not terribly far, but far enough to be annoying to go back and forth while moving. Ursi said, pastels are, okay, we got that one. Oh, there, Judy did get the highlight there. Make sure you're doing the Outlaw Cree Fine Art if it doesn't highlight with the orange. I just don't see your questions. I'm not trying to be a jerk. It just inevitably happens because I don't see them. Lori said, if I sprayed my acrylic painting with a final fixative, can I paint over it with something if I see I need to fix it? Don't spray anything. Don't put a varnish until you are done with the piece. Because it kind of protects it from stuff. And if you try to, depending on the varnish, but if you try to like scrape it off, sometimes it'll come off. I do not recommend, like, don't varnish until you know you're done. If you see something that needs to be fixed, too bad, fix it on the next painting. That is my advice there. Donna said, I've never used a spray gun for painting before. What paints do I need to buy, and do you have to mix them? For spraying, for airbrushing, you need the most expensive thing is going to be getting a good airbrush, and that's going to run. Please stop itching, nose. That's going to run. Gosh, I want to actually hold on. Let's look it up. On Amazon has them. The Grex airbrush kit is, I want to say it's like $4.50. But for $3.89 for the kit that I'm using, for the combo kit. Now, I have additional needles and stuff. That's going to be the big investment there. For the paints, the two paints that are currently my favorite are Golden's airbrush paints and Holbein. You can mix them, but you don't need to. I put a couple of drops of a lubricant first, and then I put the paint in on top of that. I don't, with those two paints, I don't have to mix anything or thin it with water. I used to use Createx and I had to thin it with water. I don't use that at all anymore because it's a pain. I mean, I didn't throw them away. I'll keep them if I need a certain color that I don't have in the other paint, but I really, Golden's right now is my favorite. Let's see. McHaney Illustrations. How did you get sponsors? They came to me. In both cases, or you know, any of the companies that I've worked with, YouTube really is how they saw the YouTube videos and contacted me. One contacted me through Facebook because of the YouTube videos to have me make a video. That was Frederick's. That's how I started working with them. And then Derwent, I made a video. I didn't like one of their products and they were like, oh, sorry you didn't like it. You want to try this one? And that's how I started working with Derwent. But Smart Art Box came to me. Yeah, all my sponsors came to me. You can contact, when I've done videos for Liquitex, that was through, there was a was it like Isaiah? I don't recommend it. There was a website that will connect like companies like Liquitex and me to do a collaboration or a sponsored video. But they were really bad. I want to say it was Isaiah. They didn't even pay me for half the stuff they were supposed to pay me for, even though I did the video. And I don't blame Liquitex. I don't think they had anything to do with that. I think that was Isaiah, or I keep saying Isaiah, but wrong word. Isaiah or something like that. I won't work with them at all anymore. So they also went through, they had done something where they made all of my unlisted videos, because you have to link your YouTube account to theirs. And they made, if you went to their thing, all of my unlisted, so all my Patreon videos were public. I had to, I took my account off of that. I'm like, I'm not, you guys are just crossing lines. Like an unlisted video should not, yeah. So I had a lot of complaints about that company. So I did do a few sponsored videos through that. And there are different services like that. I can't think of some of the other ones, but yeah, that the majority of them came to me because of YouTube. They contacted me, whether it be through my website or Facebook, and yeah, that's how that happened. Ursi said you can use many different watercolor pencil brands together on the paper. Yep, you absolutely can. They definitely mix together. Joseph said the aquarelle graphites are a weird size and don't fit any of my 17 sharpeners. What do you use to sharpen them? I've already killed one of the two 8Bs. Really? My Coom sharpeners, I just use those, but the Coom, I don't have one up here. They have a large and a small size, so I'm probably using the large end of those and just hold it, like I'm usually just kind of careful the way I position that as I sharpen it. But and they're just a little metal, like 2-hole Coom sharpeners. They're fairly inexpensive. Those are lately I've been using those for all of my pencils, my colored pencil, my everything, and I've got a million different sharpeners here, but I keep finding myself going back to those. So I'm probably using, I haven't even thought about it, but I must be using the large size then if the small one didn't fit. I think the large one, I'm gonna find out for you. Hold on. Where, oh wait, did I pack them? I may have packed them. I did pack them. Never mind, I will find out for you later when I find them. Don't let me forget. I'll figure out what I'm doing with those, because I don't, unless I have any here. Sometimes I've got random ones floating around. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, never mind. I can't find out for you. We'll have to do that later when I come across one. Violet Rain said, because I can't say things. That makes more sense. Violet Rain said, I'd love to see you paint a chimpanzee, gorilla, or elephant. Trying to perfect leathery skin is a real challenge. Really like to see how you paint leathery skin. You know, I actually have a video. If you look up Lachri and elephant, I have an old, they're in the fog, but watch how I did the crisscross on that. It's actually way easier than you might think. I do want to paint some more of them, but it's not, you're almost like doing a faux finish where you're just building texture. You don't have to have it exact. I think that's the first thing is to know you don't need it to be exact, but you want to look at your reference photo and go, okay, the lines are kind of coming here, and then they cross this way, and then they cross this way, and you're just creating that texture, and then coming back through and adding some highlights on the center of some of those so it looks like ridges. But that one may help you. But no, I do need to paint some more of all of those guys. Actually, I've never painted a chimpanzee or a gorilla, I don't think. Elephants, though, I really like. I have so many pictures of both gorillas and chimpanzees. So actually, maybe not chimps. I don't have a lot of gorilla photos, so that I should do soon. Kylie says, I don't think I've ever seen you work on drafting film with colored pencil on YouTube. Have you ever tried using the ultra smooth surface? I have not, because I don't typically like ultra smooth surfaces for colored pencil, but I've seen amazing work done on it, so I need to buy some and try it. I do need to give it a try. Veek said, that was a great answer. Thanks. Oh, I'm glad you understood it, because as I'm talking half the time, I'm like, I know that I'm talking gibberish. I don't know how this is making sense to anybody. I'm glad to hear that then. Cindy said, got it. Fog, smoke, video, found it. Thank you. Good. I'm glad you found that. Sarah said, oh, then that scrolled too far. Back up. Let's find Sarah. Okay. Oh my gosh, way too far. Sarah said, on the topic of fixing mistakes, something that happens just about every painting I do, I have to adjust. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you always. There's always something on a painting you're going to have to fix. So it's a good lesson to learn. Marilia, I'm sorry for mispronouncing it, says, hi from Portugal. First time here. You're an amazing artist. Oh, thank you. And a beautiful human being. Oh, I love you. Have you tried Pan Pastel Colorless Blender? I have not. I've not used that. That didn't come in the kit they gave me, but I didn't find that I needed it. Like, I found that I didn't have any trouble getting them to blend on their own. So I didn't, like, go out and buy one when just because I didn't find that. I probably should, though, just to see the difference. But I found that they blended really easily on their own without. So I may have to get some just to find out. Donna said, I love to see a moose or a beaver chewing on a log. I don't have reference photos of beavers. I think I can get reference photos of a moose. I'll have to look into those guys too. You guys are bringing up animals that I haven't even thought of, so this will be fun. Actually, you know what would be fun is a moose with coral on the... Wait, would theirs be called antlers? Because there's a shape different. Would that be antlers? Or horn? No, they would be, I don't know. I don't know words. Or things, or anatomy. So, but that would be really, I'm getting ideas just thinking about all of these. I like it. Beek says, final question on OMS, I hope. How messy is it? Do I need to line up flooring with plastic sheets or newspaper? Oh, not at all. It is actually not messy at all. I mean, try not to spill it, obviously. Keep a lid on it, but no, it's not a problem. That of all the things I use, that's the least that I worry about. But the thing you do want to watch with it, when you pour it out of the container and you pour it into another container, that stuff likes to spill everywhere. And Joseph actually told me this, how I got to this age and didn't know this. Poke the hole, because it's got a foil seal on it. When you poke the hole in your OMS to pour it into the other container, poke the hole on, let's see, the top up here. So like, here's your little hole, poke the hole here and pour it this way. Don't poke the hole at the bottom where I used to and try to pour. It makes more of a mess. But if the hole's up at the top section and you're pouring out, it doesn't make as much of a mess. But I would, throw a towel down if you're worried about it, to make sure you don't spill, because that is easy to spill. But once you get into your main container, as long as you're not spilling it, it's not messy at all. The spilling is the problem if you're clumsy like me. Veronica said, I'm phasing out my Prismacolors and struggling to decide between Polychromos and Derwent Lightfast. I'm trying to achieve realism and really want the best quality. Hi from Louisiana. Hi from the state next to me. I honestly can't say. I think you're going to be happy with either one of them. Either choice is a good choice, honestly. They're both excellent quality, and I can't say that I have a preference at this point. I can happily work with either pencil and be completely content. So that doesn't help you at all. Good luck with your choice. I don't envy your choice because they're both good. Julia says, I was wanting to know what's the best paper for colored pencils, especially for portraits. I wanted the paper to be the size of an 18 by 24. It depends on the pencils you're working on. But for portraits, I actually really like Stonehenge because it's very soft. It does absorb the paper, the stuff really well, but especially if you're using wax-based pencils, which I do a lot on portraits. I think that's why I like the Stonehenge so much. I found I was able to get really beautifully blended skin tones on Stonehenge easier than the hot press watercolor paper. So if I had to make a choice, I would go with Stonehenge for portraits. But I'm not going to say that it's the best for colored pencils. I'm just saying, for me, I like that one for portraits quite a bit. But I've also done portraits in colored pencil on other papers and loved that too. My preferences normally, though, would be either a hot press watercolor paper like Arches, Fabriano. I'm not liking the Fabriano Artistic Extra White Hot Press 140-pound watercolor paper as much anymore for colored pencils. I still use it on occasion. It's not my favorite. I like the Arches Hot Press or Stonehenge. And probably if I were to do, like today, I decided to do a colored pencil one, I would reach for my Stonehenge paper. So if that helps. Donna said, haha, no, just 2 ideas. I'm a newbie. Can you tell? I also like them in acrylic or oils. Yeah, I have so many ideas, so many paintings I need to do. Elaine said, would you still recommend Bristol for graphite? I'm not a fan anymore. I don't use it. I used to. Too smooth. I can't get it's so hard to get your values as dark as what you want. It's really easy to keep everything light and mid-range, which I do not like. So I don't use, the only thing I use my Bristol Vellum for now is backing. Like if I matte something and I need backing that size, something just a little bit firm, but not too much, depending on the type of frame I'm putting it in, that's what I use it for now. I don't use it for drawing at all anymore. Casey said, when using a reference photo from one of these sites that costs money, can you get in trouble for reposting the picture even if you have credit to the website? It depends on the website. So let's say Wildlife Reference Photos, do not post that photo. Don't post the original photo anywhere. You can link them back to where they can see the original photo, but I would not post that original photo anywhere. With, let's say, Unsplash or Pixabay, obviously not a problem. You can do whatever you want with those. With graphic stock, or it's not graphic stock now, it's Storyblocks. With that one, you have rights to post the photo or paint the photo. You're free there. With other websites, so what are some of the other ones like, crap, why can't I think? Hold on. My brain is not working. Shutterstock would be an example. One of those, you have rights to post the photo. You don't necessarily have rights to paint that photo. And this was something that I did once. I bought a photo from it and I did not realize, and that's why I don't have prints of that one anymore, or at all. I never made prints. I just did it for one person. But you have to buy a different license in order to be able to paint and sell that painting or sell prints or whatever else. So you can post the photo, but you can't paint the photo without the right kind of license. I don't use Shutterstock or any of those paid services at all. You want to make sure that you're allowed to make artwork from that reference photo. Some of them don't allow it at all. Some of it do require a very expensive, like a photo that would allow you to like use it on a blog or whatever, that you might spend $5 or $15 or $25 on. They want hundreds for if you're going to paint it. Very weird the way some of them I contacted and I was like, yeah, I just won't even bother with that. That's not practical. So it depends on the site itself. Thanks, Sally. I love marine life. Robert said, do you make indents on the paper for animal whiskers? Not usually, because I work with OMS. If I'm working in colored pencil, I work with odorless mineral spirits. So even if I make an indent, the odorless mineral spirits is going to make the pigment when I blend out is going to sink into those indents. So it doesn't even do me any good. It actually, if anything, makes it harder for me because of the techniques I use. So with me, if I need whiskers and I'm working in colored pencil, I'm going to use the colored pencil or brushandpencil.com. They have their titanium white and titanium white and touch-up texture. I mix those together and can paint it on. It's meant for colored pencil. It is archival, and that's how I would paint on whiskers, and then I can put the pencil on top of it. If I'm working in graphite, now graphite would work because I'm not using OMS or anything like that, so that would potentially work. But the problem is, if you screw up your indent, which I always did, it's there. That's it. You're not fixing it. You're not erasing it. That indent, that's it. So I don't like that technique for myself. I've seen people do it and make it work. It's just not for me. For graphite, I just try to work around that area as much as possible and not fill it in so that I can use it like the Tombow mono eraser to pull back the lines, and then I come back through with my darker pencils in between to thin them out and get the darker values after. So I kind of work that way. Elaine said, do you tag companies like Faber-Castell on Instagram posts of your art? Yes, quite often. Not always, but sometimes, yeah, I do. Especially if it's a company, if I've done a promo for them, I would, like with Brain Shut Off, again, with Fredericks, with canvases, those, tagging them as a part like of what I do with them anyway for the sponsorship. And that's why you'll always, if it's something that I'm sponsored, you'll always see either ad or sponsored in parentheses next to it, just so I stay legally compliant and I'm very transparent with you guys. So you don't like it, I don't want to be shady and have you guys be like not realize something was sponsored, but those are the ones that I was required to. But otherwise, yeah, sometimes I do, and that is a way for companies to find you. Actually, it's funny, and I completely forgot. I posted some, Liquitex had a thing. They asked, oh, show your Liquitex Basics paintings, and I shared it, and they sent me a message saying, can you send us a DM? And I never got around to it. That was last week. I need to message them. I'm not sure if they just wanted to share it, or I don't know what they wanted with that, but I've got to contact them. Blue Tea Art said, how do you sketch so precise? Oh, my sketches are a hot freaking mess. My sketches have lines going every which direction. But what I do, when I do my initial sketch, if I'm freehanding something, I sketch it. I have eraser lines everywhere. Everything is a mess. Then once I've sketched it out and I have everything where I want, eraser lines and everything, take tracing paper and trace it, and then use transfer paper to transfer it onto the image. Or if I were going to work with paper and wanted to freehand like that, made my hot mess, I can do the same thing and either take a photo and use a projector to project the final image so it's clean with no eraser marks on it, or I can line it up and on a light box and trace over onto my new paper with clean lines without all the eraser marks. But I never, anywhere where I'm going to be erasing and doing sketching, I never do that on my final paper because I make a mess. I trash my paper so bad when I freehand. I erase so much. Whoops, scroll too far. Again. Moose do have antlers. Thanks, guys. Things I say that make me sound like an idiot. That's going to be one of them. Elaine said, I wrote you on Patreon last week about an octopus postcard. Not sure if you saw it. I did see it. I know I saw it. I just haven't responded yet because I haven't sent. I've got a few that I've got to resend out, and I have not done that yet. But if you don't get it, within the next few weeks, right now everything's kind of a mess with the whole move thing, worse so than normal. But I'm going to be doing postcards again anyway. When is that? Actually, really soon. I've got postcards coming up. I've got to work on those. The 9th. Oh, wow, right before I move. So the 9th, hopefully I'm going to do postcards. So I'll probably send yours out, the replacement, when I do the next batch. Oh, and then my anxiety just went through the roof again with the whole move thing. See, I understand now what gave me a hint of what people have to suffer through that deal with anxiety regularly. There is wine in my future tonight. Let's see. Am I caught up though? Let's see. Go back up a bit. Okay, here we go. Velma said, don't have an Instagram account. Would maybe work to give you that picture? Yes, absolutely. Elaine said, you're right with the aquarelle pencils. I just used them and had to use the Coom sharpener, larger side, because it didn't fit in the small. It's funny because I never even thought about that. I don't even know when I'm using it. Like, it's one of those things my brain doesn't even consider, so I can't even think of what I'm assuming that's what I'm doing. I'll have to see. Elaine said, okay, I got that one. Ariel said, how do you deal with people who think your artwork is too expensive? I got a pretty negative reaction from someone who told me that my prices and I didn't quite know how to react. I think, well, as you can see, I laugh because keep in mind, art is a luxury item. Not ever, and people, especially this, like, people have gotten worse with this. People think everything has to be for them. Like, someone will watch one of my videos and be like, you talk too fast. Well, then this video isn't for you. It's for the people who are like me, who prefer fast talk. Like, that's what my brain, if I listen to somebody talking slow, I'm out. My brain just starts to wander and I start making up stories in my head, filling in the blanks because I get bored. So I'm not going to go to somebody who talks slow and tell them to change their videos. That just means that video's not for me. People now really believe that everything everyone does should fit them. So you painted something and they wanted it, so it should be the price they want to pay, right? No, people are just unreasonable. So I just kind of laugh it off because I think people are unreasonable. I mean, I might like okay, there are times when I might give someone a discount. Like somebody contacted me recently who has purchased paintings from me before, and the painting, the one they were interested in, was already sold. I didn't realize Fine Art America, when you change something to sold after it sold, because it was all accurate, it said sold, but when you're looking at the list, like just all the thumbnails, it shows you the price of the original. You have to click on that, and then when you go to that page, it says it was sold. But she didn't see that because Fine Art America was not listed, like just, it was bad. So, and I felt really bad. So I told her, you know, for that price, here's a list of other things, because it was an owl that had sold. I'm like, here's some other birds. If you're interested in some are owls, I will give it to you for that price if they're more. So there are times that I might give someone in that case a discount. But other than that, these are my prices. If you don't like them, not everything is for everybody, every budget, if you don't like them, here are my prints. You can also buy that. You know, there are options there. You kind of have to laugh it off and not take them too seriously, especially if your work has sold for what you're asking for. If you're asking a reasonable amount, they think that artwork should cost what a poster does, which is hilarious. But don't be insulted by it. I just kind of laugh at them like they're the silly person in this situation, not me, or they're the unreasonable person. I'm trying to use kinder words than what I actually use. But yeah, don't take that to heart. It happens to us all. And I think we just there's too many people that are unreasonable. Plus, not even that. Sometimes it's a matter of the person not even just being unreasonable or being a jerk. It's just that they're used to seeing prices for original art on eBay or and it's really just mass-produced crap. It's not original art. And they think that that's what our stuff should cost too. So you have that happen a lot where it's not even somebody who's trying to be rude. I think they're rude when they come to you and actually complain about the prices. When they act like, to me, if you go to somebody and say, how much does that cost? And you tell them, and it's not in your budget, I'd be like, okay, thanks. But the end of the conversation. When they go so far as to then complain about the price, that's when I think that they're an idiot. So, yeah, don't take it too personally. Happens to us all. People are unreasonable and don't understand. Like for me, we have a Kia Soul. We have one car. It's a Kia Soul. That's what's in our budget. That's what I can afford. I'm not going to go to the BMW dealer and tell them their prices are too expensive and complain. It's not in my budget. Those aren't for me. Like I don't understand why this is harder than that for people to understand. It's the same thing. But yeah, don't take it personally. People are ridiculous. Sometimes they're just uneducated. Sometimes they're just jerks. Let's see. Violet Rain said, oh, you're so awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you. And I'm glad I can read your name now. You gotta love the words when they're all that way. Now that you said it, I can't unsee that it says Violet Rain. But I didn't see it at all before. Let's see. Jenna Gets Creative said, yes, moose have antlers. More people with moose and antlers. Thank you, guys. Yeah, it's more animals like antelope and goats who have horns. I wasn't sure because theirs are like plates. Like moose have such different shape, but I'm glad I know. Thank you, guys. Elaine said, I thought it was just me not liking Bristol paper for the same reasons you said. Yeah, I really try to like it. When I was packing too, I packed so much of that I bought maybe 10 years ago and just hate. So, yeah. Angela said, looking forward to November so I can join you on Patreon. Thanks for saying last week to wait for the first to join. Not everyone would have done that. Looking forward to watching you in my new studio. Yay! I'm excited. And I'll be in my new studio too, so that's even more perfect. Well, halfway through November for me, but yay. Yeah, if you're signing up for Patreon, it's always best to wait until the first to sign up, because with patrons, it charges you, like if you sign up in the middle of the month, it charges you then, because you get access to everything for that month, and then the first you get charged again. But you wouldn't want to sign up like on the 30th or the 31st and then get charged again. And if you did sign up on the 30th or 31st, let me know and I'll refund that for you, because I don't want to, that's so close. I can only refund it once the next payment comes out. I can't refund it instantly, but I don't want you guys having to pay twice when it's that close together. If it's a week before, then that's one thing, because you had a week of that information. But if it's like days before, I always say wait till the first. Okay. Oh my gosh. We are caught up at 10:01. Perfect timing. Thank you guys for hanging out with me through my not planned day of not painting. This was not the plan. I apologize for that. I will have to fix that is it still going? I don't know. The screen went black. freaking Windows 10. Anyway, next week, I will have a live stream next week, or it's the plan anyway, unless something comes up because the whole move stuff. But I should be here next week. I don't know if I'll be painting because of the packing. It may just end up being another one of these nights. I should still have my Wacom tablet. So worst case scenario, I'll have things set up to where I can at least draw on that while we live stream. But yeah, we'll be here then. Make sure to check out our moderators. Joseph and Nick Edgar both have art channels here. They're awesome. Check them out. Subscribe to them. Tell them thank you because they help me more, like here and within the groups. Michael Perry too. Like, you guys all help me so much. So make sure tell them all thank you. And I will see you guys next week for something or another. Bye.